Hey guys, welcome back to JW's Dugout. John here. Happy Tuesday. Happy National Week for those of you who are making the trip out to Chicago. I hope you guys are having a great time and enjoying the madness and hopefully getting yourself a deal or two. Sadly, as I mentioned in my last video, I'm not going to be there this year because we are kind of swapping the cardboard for pints of Guinness, if you will. We're headed to Ireland in the next couple days here for pretty much a week-long trip. We're going to be basically seeing everything from Dublin to the Ireland coast. It should be a really good time, basically a full-on tour of the country. So you know, while you're digging through dollar boxes, I'll be dodging sheep and the potential rain that's going to hit every day, but it should be a good time. Before we get to the meat of this video, which is obviously pickups, got a lot to catch up on since my last video. It's been a couple of days, and I think first off we kind of have to talk about the Hall of Fame inductions and Hall of Fame weekend, and what a time. It was wonderful. The ceremony on Sunday, absolutely incredible. Loved all the speeches. I thought Ichiro was incredibly funny, engaging. Dave Parker's son, who is just a splitting image of the Cobra. It's insane. Gave a really good speech. It was great to hear that poem toward the end that was written by the Cobra. And then CC's speech, I thought was also really, really good. It was essentially an encapsulation of his HBO special that he had under the grapefruit tree. But a lot of good sound bites, if you will, that came out of there. And then also happy to see, of course, Billy Wagner and Dick Allen, Dick Allen's widow, who gave the speech. On a sad note, unfortunately, we lost Mr. Ryne Sandberg. Let's flip his autos. Absolute Cubs legend, one of the greats, 10-time All-Star, 9-time Gold Glove winner, 1984 NL MVP. Honestly, just one of the most respected players in all of baseball during that era. And just had a fantastic career, and it's super sad. I mean, 65 years old, passes away to cancer. I know that's part of life, but still definitely sad to see him go. I know the Cubs Nation is definitely feeling it right now. So definitely sad to see him go. It was nice to pull out some cards and take a look at some of his career stats and just kind of glance over the impact that he had on the game. But with that, let's change gears a little bit. Let's talk about some of the fun stuff, the pickups. And you know, Sunday morning I had an opportunity to sneak out a little bit earlier before the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and was able to hit up one of the local bi-monthly card shows here in Atlanta at the local DoubleTree. And most of the dealers looked like they were mentally prepared for the National. There was a lot of stock, a lot of vintage. I was really surprised with the amount of vintage that was there. Some of it was reasonably priced, others were overpriced, still others were incredibly overpriced. So it was interesting to see the dichotomy between the various tables there. Jeff from Sports Card Investor was there, of course. He's kind of a staple at these local shows. So a lot of modern, but also a lot of vintage, which was good to hear, or good to see rather. Still, I managed to pick up a few things, and I was there for about an hour or so, and picked up some commons for my 1956 set, also for my 1954 set. Was happy to see some Redmans there, grabbed a few of those, and then some other vintage and a Hall of Fame auto as well. So with that, let's flip the camera around and take a look at some of the stuff I got. All right, guys, I have quite a few items to show off here, and first up was something that I got in the mail a couple weeks back. I never really showcased it. I've actually been recommended this book quite a bit by fellow YouTubers, and that is the T206, The Players and Their Stories collection. This is the second edition by Tom Zappala and Ellen Zappala, and just a wonderful comprehensive look at the T206 set by player. They go, you know, everything from the Hall of Famers to the quote-unquote commons to the players who are on the verge of making the Hall of Fame. And it's just a nice comprehensive overview of the T206 collection, and kind of a starter guide, if you will, for collecting tobacco. And that kind of leads me into my first couple of pickups here. I've always wanted to get into pre-war, and you know, I've purchased a few over the course of the last couple of years, but really haven't, you know, dove completely in. I think I've unfortunately caught the bug, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. Have spent some time on eBay looking up just various cards that I'd be interested in picking up. I think my plan for this is really to stick with the Hall of Famers, and also I'm really interested in one team, and we'll get to that in a second. But the first one that I picked up for the purpose of this video is this T206 Piedmont 350 Miller Huggins. Huggins, of course, as you guys know, is the Hall of Fame manager for the Yankees. Guided the Yankees to, you know, all those AL pennants, 3 World Series titles between 1918 and 1929, and you know, was pivotal in obviously managing Babe Ruth and Gehrig, and the list just kind of goes on. Now this one's a PSA 1, and obviously there's some issue, but specifically with these cards, the thing that I love about them is the wear. The wear and tear is what makes the cards. I mean, you're looking at cards here with dinged corners, creases. These are the things that, to be honest with you, I wouldn't want a perfect version of this card. Granted, yes, monetarily it would be fantastic, but I think I'm going to stick with the PS1s because it shows the character. I mean, these cards are 115 plus years old. And I think this is just a great example. I mean, you've got the crease in the middle, but you've got the color pop. I love the yellow background. And then, of course, the iconic Piedmont back. So really happy with this purchase. And I think this is a good price point to stick to. The PSA ones, the SGC ones. Not go too crazy with it. I just want a nice representation in my collection of some of these pre-war cards. So the other one that I picked up here is the T206 Piedmont 350 Billy Maloney. And there's an interesting story about this, and this is the other facet of my pre-war cards that I'm really interested in, specifically for the T206, and that's the fact that this represents the Rochester team of the Eastern League. Now, as you may recall from my previous videos, I am originally from Rochester, New York. That's my hometown. We moved down here from New York City. We moved down to Atlanta from New York City a couple years back, but I am a Rochesterian. And so I love the idea that these cards represent part of Rochester's history. And specifically, I mean, nowadays everybody knows Rochester Red Wings, AAA team. They've been, you know, planted in the city of Rochester for, you know, over a century, and have had their successes. Obviously, they were the AAA team for the Baltimore Orioles, the Minnesota Twins for a time, the Washington Nationals. They've kind of moved around a little bit, but they've had some incredible players come through. And Rochester is a baseball town, baseball city through and through. And I thought this one just gives a great reflection of that history. This particular team in the Eastern League wasn't around that long, and they were honestly a pretty sad franchise for a while. They were 28 and 105 in 1904, which kind of feels like my high school baseball team's record. But then John Gonzell came in and turned them around in 1909, and they actually became a powerhouse for a few years, winning, you know, 90 plus games, finishing in first in their division. So my plan here is, and this one's pretty beat up. I would like to have graded examples, just to have some protection with the card. But this is really showing wear and tear, and it gives a character. So my plan is to finish off the Rochester guys in the set. You've got Cy Barger, Emil Batch, John Butler, Bill Chappelle, I believe is his name. So there's only a handful, but I love the fact that I can represent my original hometown in this set. So that's the plan there. All right, so I'll set these here. We've got, like I said, we've got Ryne Sandberg, 1983 tops in the back, and then a nice little auto. And I think we're gonna shift over, let's shift over to the eBay pickups. So I'm gonna try to fly through these for the sake of not having the video run too long. I am trying to pick up a few 80s cards, key 80s cards that for whatever reason I don't have in my collection. One of them, surprisingly, even though he's one of my favorites, Tony Gwynn. This is 1983 Topps SGC 8. And you can never go wrong with Mr. Gwynn. So starting to build out some of those key cards from the 80s. All right, more in the realm of vintage. Randomly picked up this one. I like the look of it. This is the 1947 66 exhibits, Eddie Matthews in a PSA 5. Of course, you got the blank back. Thought that was a good photo of arguably one of the best third basemen in baseball history. All right, the next one I picked up here this is a card that's always been on my list, the 1958 Topps Curt Flood. This one is not in the greatest condition, PSA 3. Again, doesn't matter, whatever. But it's more about the history behind the card. Flood was, terrific player, standout center fielder. I believe he was a 7-time Gold Glove Award winner. He won 2 World Series titles in the 60s. But it's more behind the card that really makes you realize how important of a figure he was to baseball history. He's best remembered for challenging MLB's reserve clause. And it was really a move that paved the way for modern free agency. And honestly, it kind of cost him his career. I believe it was in 1969, he refused to trade to the Phillies, and it turned into basically a landmark legal battle, and he ended up sitting out the entire 1970 season and really kind of never recovered career-wise. He ended up playing a little bit, but he lost his court battle. But what that did was it laid the foundation for free agency and really forever changed the relationship between players and owners. So is he a Hall of Famer? In my book, I would put him in the Hall of Fame. I think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, and not just strictly from a statistic standpoint, but his case for the Hall of Fame, I think, is less about the numbers and more about the impact. He was still a .293 career hitter, more than 1,800 hits, but the impact that he had was just incredible on the game of baseball. So as you can see with this one, there's definitely some issues in the back, but I just wanted a good example. I thought the front of the card looks in relatively good shape. There's obviously a line across the middle of it here, but just a good looking card. The green really pops. So really happy with that one. All right, and next, another eBay purchase. This is a new Hall of Fame auto, and that is Mr. Earle Combs. A signed index card, PSA authenticated. So that brings the Hall of Fame auto total to 206. All right, so a little bit of background on Combs. Known as the Kentucky Colonel, he was probably best known as the speedy leadoff hitter and center fielder for the Yankees teams in the 20s and 30s when they won all those World Series. And he was kind of, I guess you would say, an anchor for the Murderers Row lineup. Hitting in front of Ruth and Gehrig. And 325 career hitter, won 3 World Series titles with the Yankees, and he was inducted in 1970. So really clean auto. Happy to add this one to the collection. Okay, so as I mentioned, I went to a card show on Sunday at the DoubleTree in Atlanta, and managed to pick up quite a few items that I was really happy about. And I was happy to see the wide variety of vintage that they had there. The first two that I want to start off with is I went to this vintage dealer who's typically there, and I noticed alongside his display case he had a stack of Redmen, and was really surprised to see any Redmen. You don't see those at these shows. These shows tend to skew modern, and the vintage dealers that are there, it tends to be cards from like the 50s and 60s. But none of the, I don't want to say oddball. I know we've had that conversation. But some of the stuff that you just don't really see. And I was happy to pick up 2, and I won't spend a whole lot of time on these, but we'll start with Johnny Antonelli. As you've seen from previous videos, I like to collect Johnny Antonelli. He's from Rochester, New York. He's probably one of our more famous pitchers to come out of Rochester. And this is a really, really clean example. Of course, there's no tab, but and this is not the price that I paid on it. But really, really clean version. No creases. And I love these. I mean, I love the write-up. Great imagery. Happy to add that one. I also picked up the Richie Ashburn. Again, no tab. Just a really, really clean example. All right. The next two I packaged up, and I'll show them off together here. One is the 1964 Topps Giants Roberto Clemente. And as you may recall from a previous pickup video, I bought from the same dealer that I purchased this Hank Aaron Topps Giants from, which was in the SGC 7. So what I did here is I coupled this together with the 1952 Bowman Nellie Fox. This is a PSA 3, and I thought this card looks excellent for a 3. Very, very clean. Some corner issues on the back here, but the front of it is just excellent. And then was really happy with the Clemente. He had the Koufax there too. I'm probably going to go back and get that next go around after the National, after I get back from my trip. But really happy with that pickup as well. All right, the last 3 graded cards that I purchased at the show, I packaged these up as well. This was a new dealer that I had not interacted with before, and was pleasantly surprised with what he had, and so I ended up packaging these up. We've got the 1958 Topps. This isn't a PSA 2, but it's the Ted Kluszewski and Ted Williams Slugger Supreme. I thought for a 2, this is in pretty good shape. Aside from the back, of course, there's some staining, but the front of the card looks great. But the 2 that I was actually really after in this deal was, and I know it's a Beckett slab, but it's all good, this 1963 Topps Walt Alston signed. Of course, the card is just absolutely battered, but I love the on-card auto from his managing days. Of course, Alston managed the Dodgers for 23 seasons, 4 World Series titles. One of the greatest managers in history. And then I also added, this one I've been on the hunt for. I could have purchased this on eBay at any time, but I wanted to purchase it at a show. This one. So happy to get this one. And I know most people are like, it's okay. This is Ted Simmons rookie card, 1971 Topps in a PSA 5. I love Ted Simmons. I thought he was a great player. I love listening to interviews, reading old stories about him. I think he's just a fantastic person in baseball history. Was really happy to pick this one up. Had it on my list for a long time. All right, let's keep trying to fly through this video because we got a lot more to cover. Well, not a lot more, but a few. All right, so then, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I was able to pick up a few commons just to kind of fill out some of these sets that I've been working on. I'm not too concerned, again, with the condition on some of these commons, but for the 1956 Topps run, I picked up a couple Braves. So Bill Bruton, Gene Conley, and Danny O'Connell. And then for the 1954 Topps set, I picked up, of course, Johnny Antonelli from Rochester, New York, and Preacher Rowe, which, if you watched one of my earlier videos, probably about a month ago, where I showed off the Connie Mack auto that had multiple players on it, I also have Preacher Rowe's auto, so I was happy to have that. Happy to have this 54 to go along with it. So I won't go too deep into these commons, but really happy to pick these up. All right, so the last thing on the list here, I made a deal with my friend and your friend, Orlando, at A Collector's Dream. And I gotta say, Orlando, love your business card. Good looking business card. He was basically trying to sell a handful of his cards kind of as like a pre-national sale on his channel. I think it was last week, and I had interest in actually, I think it was like 4 or 5 different cards, including a Roy Campanella, but I missed out on those. I think somebody came in and swooped those up quicker than I could contact Orlando. But I was able to pick up 2 that caught my eye, and nothing huge, but was happy to do my first deal with Orlando, and he was very gracious, easy to work with, and super fast on the shipping. I couldn't believe how quickly it got here. I think Orlando's in Florida, so obviously not that far away from me here in Atlanta, but was really happy to pick up these 2. The first one is the 1966 Topps Whitey Ford. And this isn't necessarily for any particular set. I really love the look of this card. Whitey on the follow through, and very clean back, and just a great baseball card. The other one, and this is one I was really after, and again, didn't care about what it got as far as a grade. It's got a 1.5 SGC, but the 1962 Topps Stamps panel, Hank Aaron. And this goes hand in hand with my Hank Aaron run, and was just really happy to pick this up. I think these are solid additions to the collection, and it's even better that I was able to make the deal with somebody who I really kind of look up to when it comes to YouTube content in the realm of vintage baseball cards. So I was really happy to strike a deal with Orlando. I appreciate it. Happy to add this Hank Aaron to the collection, and the Whitey Ford as well as all of these cards. And that's going to be it for this one. And so, like I said, I'll be in Ireland for the next week, so please anticipate the videos will slow down a bit. I will, however, I'm planning to drop one more video while I'm away, and that's actually going to be the very first episode of what I eventually want to turn into a podcast. And I'm tentatively calling it More Than It Seems, Stories Beyond the Cardboard. So again, More Than It Seems, Stories Beyond the Cardboard. And really, this is what I envision as my opportunity to showcase a card, preferably a vintage card, at least anything 80s and earlier, maybe some 90s cards as well. And I will tell a story about that player, encompassing the baseball card. And think of it like a spoken word podcast where we're just going to deep dive into an interesting character in baseball history. And I think it's going to be fun. You won't see my face on screen, so that's a plus. And we'll just share some fun stories and see where we go from there. And then after I come back from the trip, I think we're going to jump back into the Hall of Fame autograph series. I know we're up to the 2019 and 2018 classes. But for now, that's it. And I really appreciate you guys stopping by the dugout. Please feel free to drop a like, leave a comment, tell me about your favorite pickup from this batch. And of course, hit subscribe, tell your friends if you haven't already. And I will catch you guys next time.